And number 10, Rogue. This falls into the realm of flirtation, which is why it's number 10, and you'll understand why in a second, although some of you are probably already cringing. When Rogue first joined the X-Men and before they knew the truth about their parentage, well, these two would flirt. What's the truth? These two are half siblings. So it's a good thing it never went any further than that. We don't need any Luke and Leia shenanigans happening in the comics. Cause fun fact, in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, there were comics published where those two were in a relationship. Why? Because people didn't know. It was a surprise. Now those comics are really awkward to read. You know what else is awkward? Nightcrawler telling Rogue that he would give her a kiss if he could after a fight in the danger room. What are you gonna do? Live and learn. Number 9, Wolverine. Now this falls into the realm of fanon or shipping. So I can feel the pitchforks being sharpened, you're getting ready. And I am unfazed. There are many different types of ways to enjoy fandom. There are layers. And you know what we're not here on Top 10 Nerd? The Fun Police. So in canon, Wolverine and Nightcrawler are very close friends, good friends. And so that is translated into certain fans shipping them, and even drawing their own fan comics. These are the two getting together, going on dates, you know, the usual. And I'm talking like comics, not just single panel fan arts. And they look pretty credible. One I had to pause because it looked like Cowboy Wolverine, and that was a thing canonically that he was with Hercules in an alternate universe, so it took a minute. I was like, maybe, but then I was like, oh, it's a fan comic. It probably won't happen in canon, which is fine. That's exactly what fanon is for. That and ruffling feathers, apparently. Ruffle, ruffle. Number 8, Nocturne. Now Nocturne is the alternate universe result of a Nightcrawler hookup. She is featured prominently for a time in the Exiles comic, the first run, not the second run. That comic featured alternate universe characters traveling the multiverse and correcting wrongs. This was within the timeline, or at least that's how it seemed at the start. She had been featured before briefly in other canonical comics. She was the child of Nightcrawler and the Scarlet Witch. Her name was Talia. And how did they get together? Shh, just accept it. If you want to ponder potential chemistry, you'll need to go on to our next number. Number 7, the Scarlet Witch from X-Men Evolution. The series X-Men Evolution aired from 2000 to 2003 and had 52 episodes. It focused more on a teenage roster of X-Men, and for some was their first introduction to a whole host of characters who they'd never heard of before, including Nightcrawler and Shadowcat. Well, in this series, there was some crush action between Kurt and Wanda, Wanda being the Scarlet Witch. She even gave him a kiss on the cheek. These were the good old days where Wanda and Pietro were still Magneto's kids before that retcon because of horizontal tie-in marketing. These two were a cute concept, but for a lot of the fans of the show, they were pulling for Kurt and Kitty, Kitty Pryde being Shadowcat. Those two are super close friends in comic canon, because you're not breaking up that Kitty and Colossus train, not unless it's for dramatic tension. Number 6, Storm. Why hello, amazing X-Men number 3. Along with many other issues actually. Storm is involved with a few relationships with her fellow X-Men that may make you go, huh? But there has been chemistry between Nightcrawler and Storm for some time depending upon the writer and the era. So sometimes depending upon who's handling it, gets pushed to the surface. It centers largely upon their otherness and their ability to, well, just be themselves together, and the fact that Nightcrawler is a huge flirt, and some people are just more susceptible to that than others. This one pops up sporadically and is a lot more of a will they won't they kind of thing. This is because both characters have larger pairings that they're involved in. You're more likely to see Storm with Wolverine than Nightcrawler, to be honest.
Number 5, Killer Croc and Enchantress. The Suicide Squad is like the place at DC Comics where weird supervillain power couples are born, and these two are no exception. For Killer Croc and Enchantress, they very much found a connection via the fact that they both feel like monsters in their own bodies. Killer Croc's monstrous nature and outward appearance being the part of himself that he struggles with the most, whereas June Moon's connection to the Enchantress, that monster sort of within her, making her feel about the same. Initially we thought June, despite bonding with Croc, might be in trouble during power outages and mind-altering shenanigans at Belle Reve. Both June and Croc got out of their cells, and it seemed, despite saying that he really didn't want to, the Croc was ready to eat June. However, it turned out the supposed bite was just a love bite, and the two ended up in a steamy moment of passion instead. Number 4, Thanos and Hela. I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Hela is like the Norse embodiment of death and is also the ruler of hell, so these two seem to be kind of a match made in heaven. Or I guess a match made in hell? Especially as Thanos is generally shown to be in love with death herself. Hela could easily itch that scratch for him. She's basically another form of death. Not sure what is really in it for Hela though. I guess power is a pretty good motivator, right? If you want to be in a villain relationship, you're probably both like, I like power, you got power, I got power. let's hook up. In this instance, Hela turned to Thanos for help initially and had to prove herself to him in order to win his favor. When Thanos was killed, Hela was pretty much leading the charge when it came to resurrecting Thanos and bringing him back to life. While in the end, this didn't really work out and both of them disappeared into a black hole, it seems as though Hela didn't actually need to be so worried to begin with. As it turns out, Thanos can kinda be resurrected like other Eternals. Thanos later would appear in Eternals after being retrieved and patched back up. But I won't spoil that if you haven't read that series yet. Also, by the way, we're talking about the newest Eternals comic, which you should read because it's great. Hela, on the other hand, has also since returned, being trapped in the black hole for a while before she finally escaped. Since their return, the two have seemingly not gotten back together. Number 3. Orca and Killer Croc. They're both monsters, I guess, or they both feel like monsters, but otherwise these two seem like a pretty unlikely couple. The reason why you might not know about these two is that they're actually together in the alternate universe that belongs to Injustice. Here, they don't just have a one-night stand or simply are kinda romantic with one another, they get full-on married in this universe and also conceive a child together. And surprisingly enough, although it is a bit of an odd ship, these two were actually well received and have a pretty solid fan base amongst Injustice readers. Number 2. Enchantress and Keep. This romance only lasted a few issues and I'm not sure we ever even found out what became of Keep. I don't know what Keep's up to now, or if they still exist. What we do know is that he was a monster created by the Enchantress to join her in the fight against Thor, and also maybe to be her lover? Because Keep is her creation and therefore also kind of like her son, it's really weird that he also ends up becoming her lover, and it seems like she may have also designed him for this purpose? It was a strange time. But we don't have to think too hard about it now, at least, because as I said, we haven't seen Keep and Enchantress together for quite a while. Number 1. Darkseid and Granny Goodness. Although to be clear, this wasn't any kind of romantic hookup, so if you were hoping for that to happen between these two, no. More a hookup that was used as leverage for power. Granny Goodness in fact was coerced into a physical relationship with Darkseid in order to maintain her status and win more of Darkseid's favor. Don't worry though, this isn't a thing in the main continuity if you're worried about it. It's just a thing in the limited series that exists outside of the main continuity, known simply as Female Furies from 2019. That series examines a potential world where female Furies are more stereotyped and discriminated against because they are women, despite them being capable warriors who have, proven their mettle in battle. Fortunately, this is not the vibe on Apocalypse that we get in the main continuity. Darkseid might be evil, but he doesn't appear to be sexist, so there's that.
And it's an invisible woman. You thought that a Hydra cap was a bad thing? Well, if you saw my last Wolverine video, then you know that in the Enemy of the State storyline, Wolverine was killed and then resurrected by Hydra. They implanted him with fake memories and then they did this with several other heroes. But Sue was Madame Hydra, leader of a Hydra organization that devastated this version of Earth. Well, while her dedication to Reed is typically strong, this version had her eyes set on Wolverine. So after killing and resurrecting him, she implanted fake memories that turned him into her boyfriend, before he ended up being way more useless than he should have been. You literally have a practically immortal super mutant, but you use him to get information from S.H.I.E.L.D. No thank you. Just conquer the world. We know they got down and dirty. They're villains. They don't have morals. They don't consider the consequences of their actions. You really think a little hanky-panky is out of the question? No. In at 9, Storm. Giant-sized X-Men number 1 brought together a new team of X-Men, all from different countries. Storm was from Africa and Wolverine came from Canada, eh? The two had powers and some form of nature about them that ties them to the wilds. They both had fierce tempers and didn't take crap from anyone, which could be why they were attracted to each other. They flirted constantly for years, but when Storm married T'Challa in Black Panther number 18, we thought it was the end. But like 50% of all marriages, Storm and T'Challa got divorced, which may have been bad news for her, even though they really didn't have any chemistry, and I mean, we all know why the writers put them together, but sure, it was sad for her. But it was wonderful for Wolverine. The two began running the Jean Grey School together and were finally officially a couple in Wolverine and X-Men number 24. With the lightning and sharp claws, the two certainly had fun. I mean, make a dangerous pair. Come on, we were all thinking it. And at 8, Elektra. The continuity of the MC2 universe is where I really want to focus on for this number. While on the main Marvel universe, Elektra and Wolverine don't go much beyond that, the MC2 alternate timeline focuses on the children of the superheroes we know and love. And in J2 number 5 from 1999, they introduced Wild Thing, the daughter of Elektra and Wolverine. We don't really know what happened between the two to get them so close that they had a kid, but it happened nonetheless. Maybe the kid is the reason they got together. Maybe it was a one-time thing that turned into something more. Who knows at this point? Not us. And at 7, Witchblade. The best person to have a one-night stand with, hot tips, is someone who lives in a completely separate dimension and continuity to you. So when Witchblade came along from the Image universe and crossed over with Wolverine in Witchblade/Wolverine in 2004, you know it was gonna get hot and heavy. Especially when you both lose your memories and then get married to each other due to false memories the villains gave you to torture you with the loss of each other when you inevitably have to go back to your world. Riveting. Witchblade was originally a cop named Sarah Pizzini, when a mystical gauntlet known as the Witchblade bonded with her to give her the power to cover herself with weapons and armor. Pretty freaking dope. As a king, I approve. But I mean, she obviously has good taste. That wedding dress was wonderful. And the whole, it's Wolverine. And at 6, Dazzler. Dazzler was first introduced in Uncanny X-Men number 30, where she was shown to have the power to turn sound waves into light. The light she could produce varied and could range to blinding strobe lights to laser beams. And while yes, she has been on the team since the 80s, she more so had her eyes set on long shot to be more than her partner in anti-crime. Is that a thing? However, in 2012 came Wolverine the Best There Is number 12, where Wolverine had been used as essentially a human petri dish or test tube to grow an unstoppable virus created by the evil Contagion. After the ordeal, Wolverine wanted to move forward, get past it, and keep living life, which apparently meant going into Dazzler's room and sitting on her bed. She turned off the light and he moved forward. The series ended after that panel, but we all know their night was only beginning. I mean, probably. Gotta love them Wolverine pheromones. It's like that one song James Dean Death Scene made using the lines from Sips' video on the Stanley Parable. It's like, a Wolverine got loose in the office, somebody was alerted to this fact by the fact that Wolverines are very loud and they sing to goddamn high heaven as well. I like that song.
Number 5, Barry Allen, The Flash. A love almost as old as time. Barry Allen has loved Iris West since they were young. The two are together pretty much throughout Barry's whole story and are one of the most steady relationships in the DC superhero universe. Pre-New 52, Iris herself is depicted, depending on the story, as a reporter or a journalist, and was actually born in the 30th century but was raised in the 20th century after she was transported there at a young age and adopted. Barry's definitely flirted with some of his other superpowered colleagues, but he never feels compelled to act on any attractions that he might feel. To him, his true love will always be Iris. Usually every happy ever after story ending for Barry involves him and Iris being together. To them, being with one another is true happiness. So cute. Number 4, North Star. North Star is Jean-Paul Beaubier, a member of Alpha Flight and a member of the X-Men for a time as well. He is married to Kyle Genadou. He met Kyle through his sister Jean-Marie and through his love of snowboarding. His sister had asked her good friend Kyle to become a manager of Team North Star, her brother's extreme snow sports team, in hopes that Kyle would keep him out of trouble. The two ended up hitting it off and they started a relationship. After saving Kyle when he was kidnapped by the villainous group known as the Marauders, North Star decided to propose and the two were married. In fact, North Star was even concerned when he was invited to be on the X-Men that it might just be a PR stunt. He was like, I don't want to join if you just want me to be like your gay guy, which is cute. The X-Men were like, no, we just think you're cool. We like you. Number 3, Black Lightning. Well, Prime Earth Black Lightning has been established as having this specific relationship. Back before New 52, the New Earth Black Lightning was once married. He even had children. The CW show based on Black Lightning also follows in line with this version of Jefferson Pierce's backstory as a family man. Both in the show and comics, Lynn Stewart was Jeff's ex-wife, and in the show, despite being his ex, she was also still his love interest. Although they are divorced, the two remain amicable and still work hard to be good parents to their 2 daughters. I just think they have such a cute little family dynamic. Number 2, The Thing. Ben Grimm actually found love with a civilian woman known as Alicia Masters. If the name Masters sounds familiar to you, it's because you're thinking of puppet master Philip Masters, who, yes, is Alicia's stepfather. She was very young when Philip married her mother, and as a result, both she and her mother took his last name, instead of keeping her biological father's surname. Alicia has been involved with the Fantastic Four throughout the years. She was once used in a plot of her father's where she was disguised as Sue Storm, which, oddly enough, seemed to work pretty well. Apparently, she looks like identical to Sue Storm. And no one seemed to notice this ruse, despite the fact that Alicia Masters is blind. She then appeared to be married to the Human Torch later, despite the fact that it had previously been established that she literally looks identical to his sister, Sue Storm. Which is pretty weird. We're marrying someone who looks a lot like your sister. Anyways, but this wasn't Alicia anyways, it was a Skrull disguised as Alicia named Leisha. Alicia and Ben would date, break up, but later rekindle their romance and even get married. They tied the knot. Number 1, Wally West / The Flash. Pre-New 52 Wally West actually had an entire family with a civilian. He was married to Linda Park, a journalist, civilian, and the love of his life. The two had twins together, although Linda's pregnancy was randomly lost and restored in the comics. It's a whole weird thing. Still, the twins existed for a time in the main continuity and were named Jay and Iris II. Yeah, he named his daughter after his aunt. Their kids were even revealed to have their own unique speed powers and ties to the Speed Force, and even sometimes fought crime alongside their dad. I kind of miss this whole family dynamic. It was really cute. Let's make Wally happy again. Let's let him have a family again. Please. Please, DC, let it happen. Number 10. Cable and X-23. This relationship was somewhat implied in the second volume of Fallen Angels from 2019. Here, young Cable and X-23, aka Wolverine, aka Laura Kinney, are brought together to join Quinn's Psylocke on a mission to uncover the location of her daughter, and what happened to her. During the series, there were lots of great flirting and bantery moments between young Cable or Kid Cable and X-23. We'd also learn in the Cable series from the same period that young Cable was popular on the island, dating actually a bunch of young and eligible mutant ladies. While X-23 and Cable's relationship never really seemed to grow into anything permanent, it was still a fun time and kind of a random ship that seemed to work surprisingly well. Of course, this was before Laura got with Sync during their time together in the vault, but that of course might be a story for another list, if you're unfamiliar with that one. Also, if you are, goodness, I need to put that on a list because it's such a lovely relationship. Number 9. Batman and Batgirl. Batman and Batgirl. Oh boy. We've talked about this one before on the channel, but it's such an unlikely pairing that it's pretty easy to miss if you're not aware of it. And if you're new, I mean, welcome to this awkwardness because you've probably never heard me tell you about it before. These two ended up together in the animated universe, where in Batman Beyond it was suggested that the two had a relationship. We'd later learn through the Batman Beyond comics set in that same world that not only did this happen, but that Barbara and Bruce, who already are typically more portrayed as having a mentor and teacher relationship, hooked up behind Dick Grayson's back while he was away. And that their time together actually resulted in Barbara becoming pregnant with Bruce's child. The baby never made it to full term, and the loss of the potential child did end the relationship between Batgirl and Batman. Although we'd still revisit that in another animated movie, but yeah. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear me talk about more relationships that you might have missed, especially between superheroes, or at least one of them being a superhero, let me know your thoughts in the comments below because I would love to give you that list. And don't forget to smash that like. Thumbs up. Number 8. Speed and Prodigy. This one might just be selfishly included for me, because it's a relationship that I personally always forget about. So I'm gonna include it here, in case you, like me, also somehow forgot about this one. I think the reason this one gets overlooked in my mind is just because of the big energy that we get from Hulkling and Wiccan's relationship, which kinda tends to overshadow Wiccan's brother Tommy, aka Speed, and what he has going on. I love Prodigy though, and every time I read him, it helps to jog my memory. Every time I'm reading about Prodigy, I'm like, oh yeah, Prodigy's with Speed. Also, these two were both kind of on the back burner for a while, but guess what? If you're a shipper of Speed and Prodigy together, they're kinda back together in the forefront, and of course better than ever. At least somewhat in the forefront. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be beating Hulkling and Wiccan in terms of being in the forefront anytime soon, but those two together are like so cosmic. Number 7. Superman and Luma Linei. Superman and Luma Linei were brought together by Supergirl, who wanted to help her cousin, Kal-El, find the perfect mate. Trying her hand at playing matchmaker, Supergirl found for him the superpowered blonde Luma Linei. Luma actually looked pretty much exactly like Supergirl, which sounds awkward, but that was kind of the whole point of this match. In Action Comics Volume 1, issue 289, Supergirl tries setting up Superman 3 times, and the third time only seems to stick because Superman actually shares with Supergirl that if he had to marry anyone, he'd want it to be someone just like her. Well, that's not weird at all. Your cousins. That's not weird at all. So Supergirl heads to the planet Starro, locating a match that is remarkably similar to a grown-up version of her. Fortunately, Luma can't come back to Earth. Oh no. Because our yellow sun is harmful to her, despite giving Superman his powers. So the two are only together for this one issue, and then they're basically forced apart forever. Well, Superman actually offers to stay with Luma on her home world instead, but she just refuses the offer in tears. Because comics. Superman's gotta be Superman, so he's like, I can't actually marry you, so I need you to refuse me, please. writers were like, that's how we'll get him out of this one. Great. Number 6, Iron Man and Emma Frost. One that I'm still waiting to happen in the comics is the coupling of Tony Stark and Emma Frost. Okay, so admittedly, that is a thing that kind of already happened. Tony and Emma used to be friends with benefits for a time, and it was referred to back by the two of them in issue 3 of the 2006 Civil War series. But what I'm talking about here is actually a foreshadowed wedding that was mentioned in History of the Marvel Universe issue number 6. This was something that was intended to be coming up that hadn't happened yet. I'm not necessarily holding my breath for this one, as plans in the mutant lineup have kind of changed of late, but I'm still keeping my eye out for these two to come together. And maybe you should too, because you know, that future might not be so far away. That way you can also join me on my aha moment when and if it does come to pass. And then when it happens, you too can be in on it, and you can be like, I knew it! We talked about it on this list. Number 5, Wolverine. Wolverine has almost had as many non-powered lovers as he's had powered lovers, and a lot of these romances have tended to be his happiest while also being his most tragic, because a lot of his non-powered loves have ended up dead. Are you noticing a pattern yet here? Among some of his most important and most dead of his ex-lovers are Itsu, who is also the mother of Daken, but died before he was born. Daken was actually horrifyingly cut from her womb and taken by her killer. Gross. Maureen, his wife from the Old Man Logan universe, Mariko, and Silver Fox. Dead, 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 super dead. Number 4, Superman. While Superman may not have a ton of romantic hookups with civilians, I mean, it's Superman, he's not really big on hookups to begin with, more of the settle down with one gal type, he has had one pretty big one, and that is his great love story with Lois Lane. Although in the New 52, DC really tried to make Superman and Wonder Woman a thing, the fact remains that Lois will always be his main squeeze. And if he's not with Lois, then it's got to be great love number 2, Lana Lang, Superman's canonically a very first high school sweetheart. Depending on which retcon you're reading. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. Number 3, She-Hulk. She-Hulk has actually ended up with more than one civilian. She has a very strange relationship with a dude named Rory, who basically was one of the most pessimistic people I've ever met in the comics, especially given his random luck. He ends up winning big at a casino and running into the gorgeous, brilliant, and strong Jennifer Walters. He also ends up as a pal of the Man-Thing, and yet he can't help but always focus on the negative. Rory, just like focus on the positive sometimes. This is probably why everything always ends up eventually going south for him. It's rumored he was based on Steve Gerber, who was actually the writer for the issue of Man-Thing that Rory first appeared in, and Man-Thing in general. She-Hulk has also gotten romantic and physical with other civilians, some of who were problematic and some of who were pretty great actually, such as Zapper, Wyatt Wingfoot, and Mika, an underwear model. Number 2, Spider-Man. Peter Parker has also had many famous civilian love interests, his two primary ones being Mary Jane Watson, MJ, and Gwen Stacy. But even before there was Gwen Stacy, there was another normal person that he was romantically attached to, Betty Brant. Well, normal except for the fact that her name's like kind of an alliteration. Betty Brant. Betty Brant was J. Jonah Jameson's secretary. The two met at work and began dating as early as issue 9 in the very first Amazing Spider-Man comic. Gwen Stacy actually wouldn't even be introduced until issue 31, fun fact. So Betty was there first. Number 1, Batman. Well, Batman has had a number of supervillain and superhero pairings when it comes to his relationships, though likely more villains than heroes have been with Batman, to be honest. He has also been with some pretty normal people as well. Normal. In Gotham? Who's normal in Gotham, really? Quite a few civilians actually for Batman. His list includes the first love that we were introduced to of Batman's, Julie Madison, his fiance. She was originally an actress but was also retconned quite a few times, so she's done other things as well. One of the reasons why the two didn't tie the knot was that Bruce found out that she was just after his fortune. Wah wah wah. Batman has also been with civilians Vesper Fairchild, a Gotham radio host, the famous reporter and photographer Vicky Vale, and he almost tied the knot with socialite Silver St. Cloud. He even briefly dated Soup's main squeeze Lois Lane. Yep. Oh yeah, and word to the wise, if you are dating Batman and you're a civilian, it is super dangerous! A lot of his lovers and ex-lovers end up dead and often murdered by his foes. Just like everybody else that dates supers in this list. Pretty much. She-Hulk is a safe one to date, I think. Number 10. Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. If you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the MCU, you may have missed this slight but important detail. Thanos' loyal servants and members of the Black Order, Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight, are actually in a romantic relationship with one another. And not only that, but they happen to be pretty happily married. Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight first stepped on the scene in the comics with the rest of the Black Order in 2013, and straight out of the gate they were established as a married couple. I love when two badass villains can find one another and basically become an epic power couple. It's a weird, work-related relationship that I think happens to be great. Both have boasted of one another's powers and skills as a fighter and tactician, and whenever one gets into a fight or into trouble, the other is usually not too far behind. Talia al Ghul and Bane. While this one never went super far in the comics, Bane and Talia were at the very least engaged. And in fact, Bane was head over heels in love with the head of the demon's daughter. This all happened during the story Legacy, where Bane was inducted into Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins. Raish saw potential in Bane and believed that he could be the heir he'd been so often searching for, especially considering his first pick, Batman, refused Ra's al Ghul's offer to become his inheritor. To solidify this, Raish offered Talia's hand, and Bane and Talia were engaged. However, after Batman defeated Bane in combat, Talia had grounds to break off the engagement, as it was proven that Bane was basically not worthy of her. Something she was really happy about, as she never liked Bane to begin with, but that left Bane broken-hearted. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you are loving when villains get love from other villains, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw. While they might be more enemies who are forced to work with one another currently in the comics, there was a time when they were lovers. Or at least a time when Emma saw the value in flattering Sebastian by lavishing him with attention. It was implied that they were lovers, at the very least. This was back in Emma's Hellfire Club days, so back when she herself was a villain, as was Shaw at the time. And although Krakoa is a place for all mutants and provides another chance for many mutant villains to redeem themselves, I would still consider Shaw to be a villain even today. Even in the comics right now, I think he's a villain. During their Hellfire days, while Emma did not always like the way Shaw treated her, she recognized that he was a powerful ally. Because of this, she would often accept his compliments and even actively flirt with him. Although I don't think their relationship was ever fully confirmed, it was definitely implied. In issue 152, when Shaw is defeated during his and Emma's body swap with Storm scheme, Emma even seems saddened to see him hurt and declares that the Hellfire Club is nothing without Shaw. Number 7. Penguin and Riddler. In the live-action series Gotham, these two have a complicated relationship. They became friends after Edward Nygma rescued Oswald Cobblepot, nursing him back to health after he was left for dead. As their bond of friendship grew over time, Oswald began to realize that he was in love with Edward. This caused Oswald to kill Nygma's girlfriend at the time, Isabella, whom Ed was in love with. When Ed discovered how his friend had betrayed him and learned this was because Penguin was in love with him, Nygma swore revenge on his once best friend. While the two have gotten into all kinds of trouble together and also caused one another a lot of pain in this show, they also have shown that they care about one another a great deal, and often find it hard to go on without the other. It might not always be out in the open, but it's clear that there is definitely some romantic energy and sexual tension between these two, more often than not. Number 6. Dr. Doom and Morgan Le Fay. A couple that weirdly makes a lot of sense, despite how many problems they ran into with one another. Both Morgan Le Fay and Dr. Doom are known for their unstoppable level of power, and both have ties to the mystical realm. Although I personally think of Dr. Doom primarily as a schemer and a brainiac, he is also deeply entrenched in the world of magic and mysticism, recognizing the power that it brings. As such, Doom decided to travel to the past and seek out Morgan Le Fay to become his teacher. She became more than that though, and would also become his lover. However, when he refused to bring her a token of affection via an object from the future, the love affair and magic lessons quickly came to an abrupt halt. Morgan became suspicious of Doom and decided she was just gonna try and kill him. She was unsuccessful there, but did successfully manage to break things off with Doom, and vice versa with her murder attempt. Number 5. Captain America and Iron Man. I mean, I knew I was going here as soon as I started to think up ideas for this list. Did you know we were going here? Cause yeah, we're going here. There is actually an alternate version of Captain America and Iron Man that did hook up, in a reality where Iron Man was born a woman instead of a man, and was known as Natasha Stark. She and Cap ended up married to one another, which obviously resolves a lot of issues they otherwise would have had, preventing them from existing. Civil War? I'm looking at you. I think basically these two hooking up could help resolve some of the tension between them if that's something that they were both into, of course. Or I guess if one of them was a lady, we already know how that would play out. They would just get married, so yeah. Number 4, Storm and Thor. This is a ship a lot of people have. I think there was a reality where these two did get together. All I remember from it is them wearing ugly Christmas sweaters and sending out a holiday greeting card with a picture of the two of them in said sweaters. Oh yeah, that was from one of the alternate realities featured in Marvel What Now, which is the reality where they get married. The Thorms are what they call themselves there as a ship, and they do have that holiday card. And we have seen a look at a design for what their daughter might look like as a character who's going to possibly appear in one of the Exile series. A potential character dreamed up by Saladin Ahmed and Javier Rodriguez, called Thunderstorm, although that wasn't the same reality as the other one in What Now, just to be clear. But we still have yet to see these two hook up in the main continuity, which is fair. I mean, I'm personally still hoping that one day Aurora and T'Challa might get back together when the time is right for both of them. Number 3, Batman and Wonder Woman. These two heroes come from two completely different worlds. One is just a man with a lot of skills, and the other is literally a demigod at this point. But that doesn't stop DC fans the world over from shipping these two together. I think the appeal here between these two is that they are so different. Wonder Woman is light, Batman is dark, Wonder Woman is god level, Batman is highly skilled, but still just a man. I think people like the contrast. And how does the saying go? Opposites attract? Maybe that could be the case for these two. Both in and outside of main continuity, these two have had many flirty moments to help keep the dream of them ending up together alive for us when it comes to our own headcanon and romance fantasies. Number 2, Winter Soldier and Captain America. Even if it'll probably never happen in the comics or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are still tons of fans when it comes to this ship. People are just real big fans of the idea of these two besties getting it on and taking their relationship to new heights. Winter Soldier and Captain America as a bromance turned romance is very much a ship that I think really comes from the cinematic universe, although I could definitely see some elements of it in the comics as well. I mean, seeing Sebastian Stan's and Chris Evans' heartwarming bromantic chemistry on screen myself, I get where these shippers are coming from. If you look for it, there are tons of fanfics featuring these two together, and the ship is so popular it even has been given the combination name of Stucky, Steve and Bucky put together. Stucky. Number 1, Catwoman and Black Cat. Two thieving ladies teaming up, stealing stuff, and falling in love. What could be better than that? In a magical crossover world, perhaps the same one where Ryan Reynolds' versions of Deadpool and Green Lantern meet, these two could potentially get together, and I know I could see them hitting it off. Both have been considered heroes, and both have been considered villains, and often both of them live sort of in the middle area between those two labels. Also, would they not be the hottest couple ever and just melt all of our brains? I'm pretty sure they would. Fun fact, both Selena and Felicia have been confirmed as bisexual too, I believe, in the comics. So yay, more bi babes, and also that just means that this definitely could happen. Also, how is it that we have like a world where Selena and Penguin get together and we don't yet have a world where Catwoman and Black Cat get together? What is that? We need Amalgam back so this can happen. Number 10, Emma Frost. Not everyone may know that Emma Frost, despite being a confident badass now, actually had quite a troubled past. While she was born into a fairly well-off family, her father Winston Frost was very strict and controlling. Despite Emma being the youngest, her father eventually decided that she was actually best suited to be his heir, dismissing both her sisters Adrienne and Cordelia, who were both older than her, and her older brother Christian. Christian, in fact, was practically ostracized from the family after it was revealed that he was gay. This led Christian to turn to drugs, and he was eventually sent to a mental institution. Oof, rough. It was around this time that Emma decided she no longer wanted to be her father's heir, and decided to leave her family behind and make a life for herself. During this time, she met Troy Kilkelly, a civilian who would later become her boyfriend and whom she would live with. It was eventually revealed that Troy owed money to some pretty seedy characters, and while Emma tried to use her abilities to erase their debts, in the end Troy ended up being killed as a result of those debts. Oof. Number 9, The Atom. Before there was Marvel's Hank Pym, there was DC's The Atom. The Atom is Ray Palmer, a man who can shrink to the size of an atom and is also a brilliant physicist. We originally were introduced to Ray Palmer's Atom while he was dating a woman named Jean Loring. If that name sounds familiar, it may be because Loring would later go on to become known as the supervillain Eclipso, following her mental breakdown in Identity Crisis. But before any of this happened, Jean was a normal civilian, a criminal lawyer in fact. She and Ray would even be married for a short while. Then they'd break it off, then she'd want to get back with him, and then she becomes Eclipso. That's how it goes. Number 8, Black Cats. Black Cats seems to mostly have a thing for fellow supers, be they good or bad. Considering that she is known to flip-flop herself between the two, I think it depends on kind of how she's feeling at the time, and whether or not she is in love with Spider-Man or currently hates him. Kind of tells us what her superhero supervillain status will be. However, in an alternate reality, she ends up marrying Flash Thompson. The two even have kids together. And while Flash Thompson is a superhero in the main continuity, often known as Agent Venom or Agent Anti-Venom, Felicia later divorces Flash and starts dating a woman named Diana. The two met through work, and Diana herself appears to be a pretty normal and lovely lady. Number 7, Jessica Drew / Spider-Woman. Jessica Drew has had a few different partners who could be considered civilians. She dated her landlord David Ishma briefly when she lived in San Francisco. However, when David learned of Jessica's secret life as Spider-Woman, he found it kind of hard to take, and the two ended up breaking up. She also dated S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Jerry Hunt for a time, who, while being a special agent, still did not have any superpowers, so he counts. There was also her unlucky first boyfriend, who she dated shortly after emerging from the stasis that gave her her powers, but also kind of stole a childhood from her, as she was stuck unconscious for years while her body recovered. So she went to bed as a little kid and woke up as a full-grown adult. She first discovered her famous Venom Blast, which activated when she was startled, resulting in her accidentally killing her first boyfriend. So that's why he was pretty unlucky. He died. Rest in peace, unnamed first boyfriend. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Number 6, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, like Superman, has had a long-standing relationship with Steve Trevors. And while Steve Trevors has played the hero and is a military man, he is still non-powered. He's got a lot of useful abilities, but for the most part, he's just Wonder Woman's usually annoying love interest. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the Superman and Wonder Woman ship because I love Superman with Lois Lane, but if it means that we can get rid of Steve Trevor, I'm kind of all for it. Also, could Wonder Woman just like not have a love interest? I'm cool with that too. Let me know what your feelings are on the relationship between the two, and if you love Steve Trevor or if you hate him, and if you love or hate Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman together in the comments below.
Halfway through number 5, Hercules. Extreme X-Men is one hell of a storyline. Chris and Salvador shook up every Wolverine fan with this story. The series was about a group of X-Men taken from different realities. One of these realities had James Howlett, a man from a reality where Britain had conquered Canada. Thanks. He had his metal skeleton and claws, but they were made of adamantine instead of adamantium. The controversy came from James's relationship with Hercules, and yes, I mean the Greek demigod Hercules. In this reality, Wolverine was bisexual, and the two shared a passionate kiss in issue number 10 after they saved Canada from the worst monster they have ever faced. While seeing diversity is great, Wolverine being with a demigod is one of the coolest and honestly most unexpected things. Can you just imagine the whole Hercules from the Disney movie actually being this Hercules? I mean, Disney owns Marvel now, so it could be canon. It technically is. I mean, especially with Disney Infinity. That must have been a really awkward reunion. And at 4, Mystique. Okay, I'm not gonna lie here, Mystique would be the ultimate lover. While yes, asking her to morph into, say, Jennifer Lawrence may be a little offensive, if she offers, then who is gonna refuse that? Well, in the case of Mystique and Wolverine, it's either they hate each other or they love each other, there is no in between. While she has been a more powerful adversary to the team, she did end up joining the X-Men after Endgame and was crucial in the downfall of Apocalypse. Mystique also has a special connection with Wolverine, first meeting him in 1921, where she manipulated him in a bank robbery. After that, over the years, she has pretended to be his friend or ally and betrayed him, even framed him for murder, and arranged for him to be sent to hell. But hey, he can't help but sleep with her once for every punch they throw at each other. But I mean, can you really blame him? And at 3, Domino. Domino has incredible skills with guns and hand-to-hand combat. However, her mutant power is where she gets her real benefit from. First appearing in X-Force number 8, Domino has the ability to change luck to boost not only her abilities but those around her. This has ranged from jamming guns at the perfect moment, being at the exact right place at the exact right time, to even summoning a lightning bolt to hit the exact spot she needed at exactly the right time. However, with Wolverine, she doesn't need her powers to get lucky. See what I did there? Lucky. In New X-Men Annual number 2001, Wolverine and Domino were investigating an operation that was harvesting mutant organs. Despite the gross situations they had faced and the really gruesome surroundings, they managed to have a one-night stand. And they didn't stop at one. The two shared the need to keep things simple, and that helps them be a perfect match. Well, only slightly less than our number 1 spot, at least to me. In it too, Jean Grey. With infinite Earths, there are infinite possibilities, yet somehow, in many of these alternate realities, Jean Grey and Wolverine have been a thing. One of the most famous being the 1995 Age of Apocalypse storyline that changed history to give Apocalypse control over the world. In that timeline, Jean Grey and Wolverine were in love. Wolverine was also missing a hand, but hey, damn, it might have been worth it. Or it could just be okay because he had the woman he loved by his side nonetheless. But I mean, his claws still come through the stump, so he didn't really lose them, which is good. I mean, I think it is. Like, those things must hurt like hell when they come out, healing factor or no. But to have them come out at the end of your arm when you're missing a hand? Scar tissue is more delicate and sensitive than regular tissue, so that must hurt a hell of a lot more. I mean, in that story, he never really unleashes his claws. Only uses the stump as a weapon since it had like a metal covering, but the claws could poke through that easily. Maybe he didn't unleash the beast because it would hurt too bad. It's just a theory. Finally, in number 1, the Earth. Look, I'm all for saving the Earth and everything. Saving the universe is cool, hell, even saving other planets and other universes is cool. But when those things are in danger, my first thought isn't, oh, I'm gonna f that. Thousands of years in the future, humanity was left on an Earth that couldn't support them anymore. Thousands of years? Shooting a little high there, Marvel. Well, to survive, Susan Richards and the Fantastic Four, also known as the Defenders, brought billions of people to the 21st century, where they settled on a new Earth. Doing this somehow left Gaia, the spirit of the Earth, weakened and enraged at the betrayal and abandonment. And in 2009's Fantastic Force number 3, she went after them. When she showed up, she had some powerful allies to back her play, and she almost destroyed the new Earth until Wolverine agreed to go back to the future with her. He gave her his healing factor by getting her pregnant, which brought her back from insanity. And I'm sure it did, not getting some for thousands of years. Probably none of it was actually spent in a bed, so I'm sure getting some after that long would bring anyone back from insanity. But the moral of the story is, Logan saved the planet by literally rocking the world. And of course, that was the solution, because the only logic that exists is comic book logic. Who cares anymore?
Number 10, Rogue. One of Rogue's first loves was Cody Robbins, who was just a normal young boy. This was of course before Rogue's powers manifested, but like many mutants before and after her, her powers then decided to manifest at the worst possible time. As if first kisses weren't awkward enough, her powers activated just as she and Cody leaned in for their first kiss. As a result of her powers manifesting during the kiss, she drained Cody of his life energy, leaving him in a coma. This experience would haunt Rogue for years, causing her to be afraid of her powers and thereby making her unable to fully control them, until she came to realize her fear and trauma were exactly what was holding her back. Number 9, Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel. Although at the time, Carol wasn't Captain Marvel yet, she was Miss Marvel. While her original Miss Marvel series had some really great stuff in it, her dating life was pretty weird in there. Though, to be honest, I've always found a lot of Carol's dating choices to be pretty weird, except for Rhodey. That is a love that will last forever in my mind. When it came to dating your average Joe though, Carol was kinda all over the place. Her main squeeze seemed to be her therapist, Mike Barnett, if you could call him her main squeeze, which yeah, is really wrong by the way for a lot of reasons, mainly because Carol continued to see Mike as her therapist while she was dating him. Eek. Mike violently met his end when he was randomly murdered by Mystique in his own office. And then Carol had to watch it later on this sort of illusion thing, and oh, it was not good. I also like how in that scene Iron Man is like, this is an illusion thing. Oh, the 90s. This is just apparently part of the 90s. We were like, illusions, it's normal. Number 8, Starfire. Although in the end he wasn't truly a civilian in regards to him being just an innocent guy with no ulterior motives, Starfire believed that Franklin was pretty much innocent the entire time they were together. Franklin Crandall was someone Starfire had met through her job as a model, which her pal Donna Troy, aka Wonder Girl, had helped her to land. Starfire actually fell hard for Franklin, creating tension between her and her ex at the time, Dick Grayson's Nightwing, in regard to their working relationship on the Teen Titans. In the end, Franklin was revealed to have been a spy for Hive, but he had also fallen for Corey as well. He refused to betray her, and as a result Hive eliminated him. Tragically, he died in Starfire's arms. Don't know if you're noticing a pattern yet here. Number 7, Kyle Rayner / Green Lantern. Since becoming a hero and having a really bad experience when it comes to his relationships with civilians, Green Lantern Kyle Rayner has aimed to stick to dating those with powers, usually. so he's really only had one major relationship with a civilian, but it ended so tragically that it's likely informed the rest of his choices when it comes to dating. Alexandra DeWitt was actually Kyle's ex, whom he was living with when he was given his power ring, and with it the powers and responsibilities of being a Green Lantern. Alex helped him during his transitional period in learning how to be a hero. She even made him a costume too. And the change actually brought the two of them back together again, allowing them to rekindle their romance. Yay! Unfortunately, while he was away on a mission, Alex's closeness to Kyle caused his enemies to target her, killing her and brutally stuffing her in their fridge, along with a note that seemed to be signed from Alex that read, "Surprise for you in the fridge." Rough. Although Alex passed away, she has never been far from Kyle's thoughts, and he has frequently created constructs of her. Number 6. Hal Jordan / Green Lantern. Outside of the fact that Carol Ferris was originally a civilian when the two first found themselves kind of falling for one another, Hal has also dated women who stayed civilians as well. Carol herself was originally Hal's boss, which is why they could never be together. In fact, Carol was not just in love with Hal, but she was also in love with his other persona as well, the Green Lantern, who she originally did not know was actually Hal himself. Later she would become the Violet Lantern known as Starfire, and the two would have an on-again, off-again romance throughout the years. But in and around that love story, Hal would also get involved with Normal Girl and Ginger, Eve Doremus, and fellow Air Force pilot Jillian Perlman, known by her call sign Cowgirl. Number 5. Batman and Black Canary. A lot of people think of Black Canary as only really having eyes for Green Arrow. Often in the comics, these two superheroes had been painted as soulmates for one another. But hey, that wasn't always the case. There was a time in the comics when Black Canary actually had second thoughts as to whether or not her and Ollie were really meant to be. When she was having doubts, Batman was there for her, and the two at one point in main continuity shared a passionate kiss. Well, back when Earth 1 was considered the main continuity anyways, before it was retconned to be considered an alternate Earth. In regards to the old once main continuity of Earth 1 though, that's about as far as it ever got between these two heroes. However, in Frank Miller's All-Star Batman and Robin, the two are actually lovers, at least for a time, with Batman also kind of being the more reluctant participant when it comes to the somewhat unlikely couple. But Black Canary is super into it, and Batman's like, I'm here. I would do this. Number 4. Luke Cage and She-Hulk. Luke Cage is a guy who you usually think of as being with Jessica Jones. Why? Well, because the two are married and they also have a daughter together. Also, they're super cute together. The two of them are an amazing power couple. But before they tied the knot and ended up committing to one another, did you know that Luke Cage actually went on a date with She-Hulk? Yep. After winning a bet, he got Jennifer Walters to commit to going out to dinner with him. Honestly, these two together are also a great pair when you think about it. Both are strong, both are witty, and both are committed to doing whatever it takes to save civilians in peril. Unfortunately, their relationship really only consisted of that one date as far as I know, which is also why you might have missed this brief pairing. If you want to check out this date though, which coincidentally gets interrupted by some baddies but then even continues after that, check out Heroes for Hire issue 17. And I believe that's Heroes for Hire volume number 1 from the 90s. Number 3. Supergirl and Jimmy Olsen. This happened in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. What a wonderful, weird series. What happened? Well, Supergirl, who has at times been shipped with Soup's pal, ties the knot with Jimmy Olsen himself. Jimmy gets all the ladies in the comics, but really he kinda does. Must be that ginger charm. Jimmy Olsen ends up with Supergirl in this case because she gets amnesia. Jimmy, not knowing that Linda Danvers is Supergirl's secret identity, accidentally exposes her to red kryptonite when she attends a show where he's basically showing off all his trophies and his souvenirs from his exploits with Superman. The two are wed, and it's only after their wedding, when they are married, that the effects of the red kryptonite wear off, with Linda getting her memories and her superpowers back. Now, Supergirl has a dilemma because, she wants Jimmy to also love that other side of her. Because yeah, she gets her memories back and she's like, yeah, I'm married to Jimmy Olsen, I love it. So she wants Jimmy to fall in love with her true Kryptonian side. So what is a girl to do? Well, obviously try to get him to cheat on his wife, who is of course still her, with her superhero persona of Supergirl, right? Isn't that what we do? It was a different time, folks. Jimmy ends up being conflicted when he believes both women are interested in him, with Supergirl actually propositioning him for marriage, even though he's already married to Linda. In the end though, everything is resolved and Jimmy realizes he's married to Supergirl and Linda, who are one and the same. However, this issue also ends with the fact that this is all an imaginary tale. Haha, joke's on you, reader. So the wedding that thousands of readers, as described in the intro, had apparently been waiting for was actually all a sham. Aw, DC, you got us. But hey, in an alternate reality where this happened, the two are possibly still married, so fun facts. Number 2, Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic. That is right, speaking of alternate realities, there is an alternate reality over at Marvel where the Human Torch is the older Storm sibling who ends up married to Reed Richards. This alternate team of the FF appear in issue 563 of the Fantastic Four series, legacy numbering of course. Here we meet Jack Storm, who is Reed Richards' partner in crime fighting and his partner in romance. Jack is the older sibling and Sue is the younger, though she is still a member of the team as the Invisible Woman. Unfortunately, their alternate world was in pretty bleak shape when we saw them in that issue. The whole team died, but we can't assume there was a time in this reality where Jack and his husband Reed were actually quite happy together, before everything pretty much ended. This couple existed in the reality of Earth 93563. Number 1, Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn. Now, I think at this point we can almost certainly count Harley as a superhero. I mean, at least an anti-hero, at the very least. While she may have won Villain of the Year only a few years ago in 2019, she still has played an active role when it comes to the hero side of things in the comics, even teaming up with Batman in Joker War and joining the Bat family in a more recurring role as Bat's sidekick this year in 2021 in the Batman series. So for that reason, I'm gonna count her for this list. Also, I love Harley for the reason that she is constantly changing and evolving so much. It's hard to pin her down as either hero or villain permanently. It's great. I like when people are like, what are they? They're kind of complicated. That's what they are. In her own series, Harley's Little Black Book, here Harley teams up with herself, her bombshell self that is. Harley's Little Black Book, in case you didn't know, is actually a team-up book for Harley Quinn. Also, if you haven't read it, go check it out. It's pretty wild and pretty fun. Because Harley ends up teaming with herself in issue number 4 of this series, she can't resist and of course gives herself a big kiss. While main continuity Harley is all about it and even proclaims, hey, she's a pretty good kisser, bombshell Harley does not seem to feel any sparks between them, thinking that the main continuity Harley is actually a trick created by her enemies. Gotta love the self-love. Number 10, Batman and Emma Frost. I love the idea of crossover ships. There is nowhere else we'll likely see these ones anytime soon other than in our imaginations. Unless Amalgam somehow comes back to life. Why do I feel like Emma Frost and Batman would be so perfect together as a ship? Because they are both very focused and determined people. Also, they are both people who understand the responsibility that comes with power. And Emma also happens to be quite good at wielding said power and also quite good at business, like Batman. Ship is a term I'm going to use a lot here, by the way, and just to explain it briefly in case anyone doesn't know what it means, ship refers to a relationship, not a boat. And to ship a couple, or when I talk about ships that exist, I'm referring to the idea of that couple together. In this case, the ship would be Batman and Emma Frost, and if I supported them together, I would say I ship them, or I ship it. Number 9, Hellcat and She-Hulk. Okay, so I might be the lone shipper on this one. You all can let me know in the comments if I am. I've looked into it and I don't see a lot of stuff about it, but I love the idea of Hellcat and She-Hulk together in a relationship. In the comics, Trish Walker and Jen Walters are best friends, despite what the Netflix Jessica Jones series would have you believe. Hellcat and She-Hulk are always there for one another and always have a ton of fun together. I think they have great chemistry, and I've always wondered what it would be like if they ended up falling in love with one another. Maybe no one else sees it, maybe no one else wants it, but I do, and it's my list, so I guess y'all will just have to deal with it. Let me know if you see the potential that I see when these two are together in the comments. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more shipping lists, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8, Batman and Harley Quinn. For some reason, this is a ship that a lot of people seem to want. I know at least James Tynion IV seemed to lean into it when he was writing Batman. During Joker War, I felt like there were a lot of possibly flirty and romantic moments that went on between these two. Honestly though, it kinda makes sense. Harley, while not known for her love of the Bat, certainly is depicted as having a thing for Bruce Wayne, which is the true identity of Batman. Or is it the other way around? Either way, I feel like Harley and Batman are kind of a weird ship, unless we're talking White Knight universe of course, where the two definitely have some well-earned chemistry. Still, these two together would probably have a healthier relationship than Joker and Harley, so point for that, I suppose. Let me know if you ship Harlbats down below, and if you think Harlbats is a good ship name or not. I just made it up. Number 7, Deadpool and Green Lantern. Of course, what pairing could be better than Deadpool and Green Lantern? In the cinematic realm, that would mean that we get to see Ryan Reynolds date himself, and I personally am for that. I don't know if I want this ship in the form of some alternate reality one-shot or if I want it in the form of a short film, but I definitely want it. So Ryan Reynolds, if you're watching this, can you make that happen for us? Thank you. Also, a big thank you to Liam for the suggestion. Y'all probably don't know Liam, but he is one of the folks who currently does work at the studio off camera and is also a fellow nerd amongst our cast, crew, and production team. So thanks, Liam. This is a fun one. Number 6, Captain America and Captain Marvel. Okay, so this just might be me. This apparently is a list of characters that I want to hook up, but one ship that I have always been super hopeful for is Cap and Cap. I feel like Carol's fun, yet serious and disciplined nature would go well with Captain America's classic ideals and optimistic, stern, yet fair approach. Also, the two of them have pretty much always respected one another and fight and work well together. They also both have a military background. So obviously it already feels like there is a good basis of chemistry there when it comes to a potential relationship happening between the two of them. I might be alone in this one, but it's still one that I personally want to see. And hey, the world is a big place. Maybe I'm not the only one dreaming of the Cap-Cap romance. Let me know in the comments if you are also curious about what these two would be like together as a couple.
Number 5, Jean Grey. Jean Grey and Nightcrawler share a kiss in the X-Men Alternate Universe story X-Men The End. This was a miniseries that ran from 2004 to 2006 and was written by the legendary Chris Claremont. It's a lot of a lot. You gotta strap in for all the plot details. We've got the Shi'ar Empire, the Phoenix Force, Phoenix Eggs hatching Jean Grey, who becomes a carrier for the Force again anyway. At one point, Nightcrawler grabs her and kisses her, and tells her she is the fire and the life. And their hopes and dreams made flesh, so no pressure. I think my favorite thing about this speech is that it's going on while he's kissing her, so it's like he couldn't even stop kissing her. He had to keep talking, like, why? Number 4, Cerise. Cerise first appeared in the Excalibur comics, making her first full appearance in issue 47. She's from the planet Shaxo-Frungon. That's in the Shi'ar Empire, and I don't live there, so I don't feel too bad about that butchery. She would be drawn to the Excalibur team as soon as she encountered them, and also to her teammate Nightcrawler. This one was a full-blown relationship. She was learning to navigate relationships with him and found it highly enjoyable. So you kind of have a Starfire kind of thing going on. And also because of that, she was super free with her feelings and thoughts, be it about missing him or just about making out, which he very much appreciated. Shout out to the tall Amazonian ladies and the shorter men who love them. Not a lot of people know about Cerise outside of Excalibur, but I mean, if you're ever back there, she's a fun character. Number 3, Rachel Summers. This is a more recent development at the time of this recording. Rachel Summers was actually born in an alternate universe. She is the sister of Nate Grey. She would become more and more connected to canon continuity via retcon. As Rachel Grey during her time on the X-Men, she developed quite a crush on Nightcrawler. In fact, the two actually shared a kiss. However, at that point, he was also crushing on Storm, who was crushing on Wolverine, high school drama. Still, now that Rachel's prestige, the two seem to have an attraction going on still, prompting such classy headlines as, "Is Rachel Summers going to get some tail?" See, it's a play on words because that's slang for sex, but he also has a tail. Ba-doom-tsh. I like their swashbuckler outfits though. This was X-Men Gold issue 7, just in case you're interested. Number 2, Megan. She first appeared in Mighty World of Marvel number 7 back in 1983 and was part of Marvel UK. Her first American appearance was New Mutants Annual Volume 1 number 2 back in 1986. She was tied to Captain Britain, and she was a major romantic interest for him. But during their time on Excalibur, she developed some very strong feelings for Nightcrawler, who had very strong feelings for her. Except, well, she was in a relationship with Captain Britain at the time. So it was very much a this shouldn't be kind of thing, and Captain Britain was very jealous about it. It kind of sort of happened, but not really, because cheating, and ultimately she actually married Captain Britain in that comic. In modern continuity though, there is still flirting and some feel cheating. Is there kisses? Maybe. Anyway, Megan is one of Nightcrawler's well-known and acknowledged loves. And number 1, Amanda Sefton. Number 1 has to go to the earliest classic romantic interest for Nightcrawler. Amanda Sefton, aka Day Tripper, aka the Second Magic. Also, she's his foster sister, just roll with it. These two have an on-again, off-again relationship, and it's been going on for decades. Even when not together though, they remain people the other can call on. One of the first things the Nightcrawler did when he was resurrected was seek her out to try and restart their relationship. Cause death is just an inconvenience for most superheroes. For many, this couple is an endgame couple, like the must-be couple. And if you're not too familiar with Nightcrawler or the X-Men, you may be like, what is all this? I need to check it all out, or not.